Welcome to My Life Lessons featuring stories from immigrants. Today, my guest is Chris Kraras. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Chris, take a moment and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, unlike a lot of the other folks that are going to appear in this piece, I'm not an immigrant. However, I'm first generation, and which I think, and I represent a large segment of people in Berks County, especially going across many other nationalities. But there's a large number of first generation Greek immigrants, and I know a lot of their stories. I'm a historian at heart, even though I dabble a lot in business. I was a school teacher at one time, and that was my major, and so I love history, but I particularly love the history of the immigrants and the Greek immigrants to Berks County, and immigrants as a whole to this country. So it's sort of a passion of mine, and I thought I could bring you a little different perspective on immigrants coming from the point of view of first generation people who live in and around here.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What has inspired you the most about the history of the generation before you immigrating here? What has been some of the inspiring stories for you?
It has been incredible. The more you read about it and the more you come in contact with the original immigrants who came in here, the more impressed you are by their drive to succeed. In almost every immigrant's story, you can find that they came here from a position of hopelessness in their country, whether it be from Greece or Spain or France or wherever they came from. But they came here because it offered hope. This country offered hope. And Berks County in particular offered a lot of hope. And what I was so impressed with, and I continue to be, is the amount of drive that these people brought with them to succeed. They thought the world owed them nothing, but they were going to try to find opportunities. And they found these opportunities within the confines of these United States, and for our purposes and our discussions, within the confines of Berks County, where there was so many different places that they could go to work. In the Greeks' cases, to Berks County, there was a couple businesses that were booming back in the 10s and 20s and 30s, who were owned by Greeks. In particular, on Penn Street, just a few doors from your main office here, was a place called the Crystal Restaurant. Mm-hmm. The Crystal Restaurant was owned by a family called the Mantis family, and they would bring over literally hundreds of immigrants and give them their first opportunity in this country to work at the Crystal Restaurant and their surrounding businesses. There was another fellow who owned a candy factory who employed hundreds of people back in the 10s and 20s. So those are places where they sort of got their starts. And then restaurants became so popular. Mm-hmm. As has been mentioned, for those of us who are old enough to remember Penn Street in its heyday, there was 4 or 5 restaurants or hot dog stands or some places of eating in every block. And I would say the vast majority of those were owned by Greeks, because one thing they did know when they came to this country was how to work. And that there was no such thing as how many hours did you put in. It was a matter of how much time did it take to get the job done. The job meaning to accumulate enough wealth to give their children opportunities that they didn't have in the mother country. And again, this could apply not only to the Greeks, but to many other nationalities, mm-hmm. Especially in those days. I still see this in Berks County. Many people are discouraged because they think that a lot of folks nowadays who come into this country expect a lot more from the government as opposed to time and effort of their own. But I don't see that. I see that most of the folks that are involved in coming to this country, whether they be immediate immigrants and even first generation, are people who are willing to put in their time to create success for themselves and then to create success for their families and generations to come.
We had the privilege, as you know, of interviewing your father. And he spoke of the opportunities. And if you're willing to work, the opportunities are there if you are willing to work. What would you say your greatest life lesson has been from your father as he has been here and taken advantage of those opportunities for himself and for your family?
You know, this is sort of an easy question. As we would call this in the basketball world, that was a layup. When you are able to stand next to your father, who's the fellow you interviewed earlier, who's 96, and I'm about to be 70, and I've been at his side for all my 70 years, you learn a work ethic. And the greatest life lesson was simple in that case, and it was work, give it your best, and be honest and fair. Let your family be your overriding concern, but mostly don't give in to outside pressures that would take you away from that straight and narrow path. And it's been so simple. And my life lesson I tried to pass off to my children. Mm-hmm. I continue to try to pass it off to my grandchildren and anyone else who'll listen. It's so easy when you just give it your best. Don't wait for outside favors and be straight.
Can you give an example of how you put that life lesson into practice here in Berks County?
Well, I'm a dabbler in business. I think I mentioned I used to be a school teacher. Mm-hmm. But even at the beginning of my school teaching life, I realized I love teaching. I still love teaching. I still do it on occasion as guest lecturer. But I knew I needed more. I needed more challenges. So I would always work at night and create new businesses. In my life, I've been blessed. They call me dabbler because I've been blessed in owning 25 or 30 different businesses. They weren't all successful. I wish I could tell you that, but they weren't. But I didn't stop trying, and I still don't stop today. And my children sort of follow that same life lesson of keep trying it. As somebody said, much smarter than me, it's better to have tried and failed than never to have tried. And as long as you win most of them, life can be pretty darn rewarding and satisfying.
Based on your history, your family's history and legacy, are there any surprises that hit you here in the United States? Are you amazed? Are you still amazed?
You know, I am truly, I'm also a born optimist. So I'm always amazed at how many more opportunities are out there for people who want to grasp them. It never ends. It never ends. There's opportunities. There's a young man who's a first generation young man from Italy who graduated from college back in 1980 with a couple of young men that worked for me. And he could not find a job in criminal law, which is what he wanted. And he went out and started washing windows to get by. So today, fast forward 35 years later, he employs about 40 people. He's been washing windows for his whole life, and he has a huge home, takes 10 vacations a year, and he loves life. You know, you can't find those things in other places. Mm-hmm. Those are the surprises to me that keep happening on a daily basis. And when you get around the community and you start talking to enough people, and especially when you get old, you come in contact with more people that want to tell you their story. And I hear these stories so frequently, and it just makes me happy and proud to be an American. I know that's a trite statement, everybody wants to say that, but when you compare it to almost any other country, you just don't get those opportunities.
It's interesting because what I hear is a common thread, whether it's first generation or not, of joy, of family, legacy, opportunity. Do you experience that as well?
Every day. Every day. We celebrate every day in my family, and anyone who works with me, anyone I come in contact, probably tells you that I try to celebrate joy daily, almost ad nauseum. I'm sure there's folks who can't stand my upbeat attitude on a regular basis, but I truly do celebrate the things that we have in our lives and in our country. Everybody can wake up on which side of the bed, and it's always nice to end up on the happy side of the bed and look at all these things that this country has to offer and that life has to offer.
If you could describe in one sentence what being here has meant to you and your family and your legacy, what would that be?
It would be, you probably will get this answer from most people that are going to talk about their own immigration to the United States or first generation, is that this country offers people opportunities that are not offered in any other country in the world. That's one sentence. I could expand that for a half hour, but in one sentence, and we should celebrate that. We should celebrate that every day and thank God for those blessings.
Thank you very, very much for the honor and privilege of being in front of you today and getting to speak to you today. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. It was my honor too.
Thank you.
These life lessons are made possible in part by Lions and Hole site contractors and by White Star Tours.